Hey everybody, this is SWTOR Kamikaze. I'm on my Shadow, and I'm going to be going over the Kinetic combat spec. I do not normally play in this spec, so I apologize if the rotation is crap. It's going to be extremely basic. I will be going over things to note for the discipline path. However, it's only going to be a couple things. So it is going to be extremely important that you read over each and every single one of these, as they should theoretically help you out in coming up with your own rotation and finding your own playstyle. I will be going over my utility points here in just a second, where I also recommend that you read over each and every single one to find a spec that matches your playstyle better than what I have. And then at the end of the video, I will be going over some player tips for everybody here that watches the video. Alright, so under utility points, I have Intangible Spirit, whereas Kinetic Combat reduces all damage taken while stunned by 30%, and as either of the DPS roles reduces the damage taken from area attacks by 30%. This has recently changed with the recent update, I believe, because it used to be where regardless of the role that you were in, the Intangible Spirit reduced all damage taken while stunned by 30%. I also have Lambast, which increases the damage done by a Whirling Blow by 25%. And as a substitute, I would recommend using Snaring Strikes, which Double Strike, Clairvoyant Strike, and Whirling Blow will reduce the movement speed of the targets they damage by 30% for 6 seconds. Under Masterful, I use Nerve Wracking, where targets controlled by your Spinning Strike and Force Stun take 5% more damage from all sources. I also use Shadow's Shelter. Mass Mind Control provides Shadow's Shelter to all allies within range, excluding yourself, reducing the damage they take by 5% for the next 6 seconds, and heals them for 2277 health over the duration. As a sub, I would recommend getting Kinetic Acceleration, where activating Project, Psychokinetic Blast, or Squelch increases your movement speed by 50% for 9 seconds, and the effect can occur more than once every 18 seconds. This is rather nice for those of you who have a need for speed. Under Heroic, I use Sturdiness, which activating Deflection grants 6 seconds of immunity to stun, sleep, lift, and incapacitating effects. I also use Shadowy Veil, where when damage breaks your mind maze prematurely, the target will suffer from sapped mind, reducing the damage they deal by 25% for 10 seconds. In addition to that, while under Kinetic Combat, your Cascading Debris increases movement speed by 35% for 6 seconds. I also recommend using Aggress, where Force Speed grants Aggress, removing all movement impairing effects, and grants immunity to them for the duration. Or, if you would like a second stun, you could use Containment, where your Force Lift breaks. If your Force Lift breaks early from the damage, the target is stunned for 2 seconds, and Force Lift activates instantly. Under Legendary, I use Stalker Swiftness, where Shadow Stride grants Stalker Swiftness, allowing your next Spinning Strike to be used on any target, regardless of remaining health. And Stalker Swiftness will last for 10 seconds, and in addition to that, if the target of your Shadow Stride is killed within 10 seconds of using it, the cooldown will be reset. I also use Avenging Grip, where Deflection will grant Avenging Grip reflecting 100%, since we are in kinetic combat. It will reflect 100% of all direct single target tech and force damage back at the attacker. It will last for 12 seconds and does not absorb incoming damage. As a substitute, I would recommend one with the shadows, where Shadow Stride can be used while immobilized and purges movement impairing effect when used. And then in addition, Force Speed will allow you to absorb 60% of all incoming damage for the duration of Force Speed. Another substitution would be Martial Prowess, where Force Pull immobilizes its targets for 3 seconds. And after the incapacitating effect wears off, that's for Low Slash. And then in addition, successful use of Mind Maze will grant Martial Prowess, increasing the crit chance of your next direct attack by 100%. And the effect will last for 20 seconds. Some things to note: it is extremely important for a tank shadow to be using Kinetic Ward. There's not enough stress for using that. What it does is it will grant you 15 charges of Kinetic Ward, which increases your shield chance by 15% for 20 seconds. And each time you successfully shield, it will reduce 1 charge. It is extremely important while tanking. Other things to note: your slow time will weaken the target for 45 seconds, and the target will have a 5% reduction to their melee and range damage output. Force Breach will cause the target to be unsteady for 45 seconds, which decreases their target's melee and range accuracy by 5%. When you exit Stealth, it will automatically grant 4 stacks of Shadow Protection, which Shadow Protection will increase your damage reduction by 1% per stack for 12 seconds. Your Double Strike, Rolling Blow, Spinning Strike, and Shadow Stride will all cause your next Shadow Strike to be having half the cost, and it will act as if it was used from behind your target, and that proc will be having a 10-second cooldown. So another important thing here is, as a tank, is you will need to watch your energy. The better your energy control while keeping the ads on you, the better off you'll be. To help with the ad control, you have 3 abilities that has high threat generation, which is your Force Pull, your Slow Time, and Force Breach. You will need to alternate through these, as Force Pull will, not only does Force Pull have a 43.6 second cooldown, it only is used while your target is at a range, at least between 10 and 30 meters. Your Slow Time has almost a 10-second cooldown, and your Force Breach has the same cooldown time as your Slow Time. Everything else you can use just about any time, constantly. Your Spinning Strike will only be available when your opponent is at or below 30% max health, but all the other abilities are available all the time. So it's important that you alternate between your high threat abilities, so that way at least one of them is available when you're going through your rotation. The interesting part about your high threat abilities is they're both AoE, and that your third AoE ability is your Rolling Blow. every other ability that you'll be using, such as double strike all the way through spinning strike, they're all single target abilities. So it's actually rather interesting. So to help with single target, such as bosses and everything else, you also have your taunts, which is mind control for your single target taunt, and mass mind control for your AoE taunt. Both of which, your single target is 15-second cooldown, while your AoE taunt is a 45-second cooldown. So the abilities that procs will be project and shadow strike. Those two will constantly be proccing. Cascading debris does have a chance to proc, however, it is not terribly often that I've seen, at least not with me. And I'm not sure about spinning strike. I believe spinning strike has a chance to proc, but I'm not 100% sure. So, using the operations training dummy here, unless you are using force pull to pull your target for that high threat, Shadow Stride will actually proc your spinning strike, at least if you're spec for it, and Shadow Strike will proc along with project. Double strike will proc both Shadow Strike and project. May take a couple times for the project. Cascading debris. Just keep going until and as you can see, it took a while, but cascading debris did proc. AoE abilities such as slow time, rolling blow, and force breach. So really, if you're using constant AoE, you really only have one ability that's constant for an AoE ability. Your other two are on 10-second cooldown. Yes, I got the fact that I have a bunch of notifications. But yeah, so I find the reason I have a hard time here, as you can see, is really you have a bunch of single target, but your high threat abilities are both AoEs for the high threat, unless you're using force pull, which pulls one target. Oops. Did not mean to click on that. So the big thing is yes, Shadow for kinetic combat is actually easy to find your own rotation, especially since it's more single target. I do not have a specific basic rotation to give you guys, except what I have set up as far as double strike, project, cascading debris, shadow strike, using both shadow strike and project when they are procced, and spinning strike when that's available. And then it's just 3 abilities for your AoEs. That's all I really have for rotation. So I apologize for you guys on that one. So those who are more experienced, feel free to drop down the rotation, specific rotation that you may have. That way, even I will learn from that. So some tips for you guys will be under your legacy, which is why I wanted to bring it up. And under character perks, under advancement, I recommend that you set in what you will be focusing on. whether it be war zones, flashpoints, class missions, which does go rather well hand in hand with the exploration, or even if you're doing Starfighter. Under travel, I recommend every class that's leveling up, especially if they're focusing on their story, their class story, to get priority transport personal starship. This is fantastic because you could be in the middle of nowhere on a planet, just finishing off your heroic mission, and your class story will tell you to go to your personal starship. Well, instead of having to go to the nearest flight path to take the speeder over to the spaceport, you could be in that middle of nowhere and click on the personal starship transport and be taken straight to your starship. I also recommend getting side planets such as the CZ-198 as well as Black Hole, in case you want to go there for heroic missions, or maybe even personally going to the flashpoint in person, and you can just click on them to go straight to the planet in case you do not know where on the galactic map it is, or you keep forgetting. Under convenience, eventually you can get all of them, as they are all helpful in their own way. However, when you're first starting out, I would recommend getting the field respec in case you want to go from tank to DPS, or from DPS to tank, vice versa if you're a healer, or just want to try out that second, maybe third DPS spec. This comes in handy where you can do that just about anywhere instead of having to go to the fleet every single time and then go right back to where you were. I also recommend that you get the field repair droid. That way you're able to repair and sell items from your inventory no matter where you're at. Under companion, I do recommend that you get Legacy of Promptness, which reduces the time taken to give gifts to your companions by a total of 60%. It's 20% per level, which will take it from the 3 seconds to give gifts to your companion down to about 1.6 seconds per gift given to your companion. I also recommend that you get Legacy of Altruism maxed out, which increases the amount of companion influence gained from companion gifts by a total of 30%. In which again, it's 10% from each increase. Under Global Unlock and Other, I do recommend that you get at least one character maxed out with the light attunement or light alignment. That way you can get the Unity ability, which the Unity ability will only be able to be activated while your companion is out with you. And what the ability does is both you and your companion will have an increase to your damage reduction, or reduces the amount of damage you take by 50% for 15 seconds. As you notice, I am on my personal starship making this video. It is not required that you get anything for ship unlocks, but it is nice if you're like me and you like using your training dummies on your starship. That way you're in private and not in public on the fleet using the training dummies. For ship unlocks, or training dummies are both here for Warzone and Operations. Under Convenience, I do recommend that you max out the Legacy Fleet Pass, because that will mean your Emergency Fleet Pass will have 0 cooldown. I also recommend that you max out the Legacy Travel, so your quick travel ability will have no cooldown. And if you do decide to get the Priority Transport Personal Starship, I recommend that you max out the improved Personal Starship Transport. So that way even that will have no cooldown as well. Essentially with all three of them, when you have no cooldown, you can port around all day and anybody grouped up with you could potentially get annoyed because they will struggle keeping up with you if theirs is not. If any of theirs is a cooldown. I also recommend you get tactical markers because let's say you are in charge of the operation at Flashpoint. You could use the tactical markers to mark out where you want each role before the boss fight, and hopefully the fight will go a lot smoother instead of rather chaotic. I also recommend getting improved mounting, so that way you can mount while moving instead of taking those 2 extra seconds to stop, mount, and then start moving again. I personally love it, and I find it rather addicting. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys, and I wish you luck, and welcome to playing a Kinetic Combat Shadow.